For those who don't know, he's been a man involved in hockey for many years. And I think he would have also represented Trinidad via hockey, clearly many moons ago. But nonetheless, I want to start there as we transition into some of the top stories. What's your take on what happened via the Olympics and where we are with sport, Mr. Griffith?
Hi, good morning. Well, not many moons ago, just a few moons ago, the national team. Good morning. So I have been, people are not aware, my first love really is sport, more than national security. I've been on the technical staff for the West Indies cricket team at World Cups abroad, with the national football team. I've been manager of the national hockey team for over a decade. Actually played sport at the highest level in this country. And it is disappointing to hear a Minister of Sport try to box in all of the funds you have put in for the last 9 years. Let's do the maths. 9 years divided by 400 million. We spend just about, so the budget with sport is about $40 million per annum in comparison to other ministries, which would be into the billions. And sport has always been seen as the bastard ministry, a mediocre ministry. And that is the unfortunate thing. Posting that, taking 400 million, divided that by 9 years, is just about $3 million a month. The type of technology that is required now for athletes to move from qualifiers to finalists and finalists to medalists, that is not going to help. And then to put a cosmetic and all of a sudden, after the fact, you run to do a photo op to give Kishore $40 million. The athletes don't need that after the event, after they have qualified, after they have succeeded. What we have done for far too long is totally trivialize the importance of understanding the development of sport that can develop the country. Putting that into national security perspective, I think the lowest crime rate we have had in one fortnight in the last 20 odd years would have been just after we qualified for the World Cup in 2006. Sport can unite a country. And it is so unfortunate. We have a national football team where, unless it is that the government gives support to that National Football Association, we are going to get a mediocre third grade international coach or have to go back to a local coach. And then when we do not qualify for the World Cup, we complain.
But Gary, what we're seeing here actually is that they're saying the numbers, people just not taking part. The numbers in terms of people taking part in sport is shrinking, and I guess the pool of talent is not there like how it used to be.
Well, and that is the point, because by just stating that we're going to give Kishore Walker a $250,000 check with a photo op, that is not how it works. We have to look at the development from youth level. Our under 15, under 17, under 20 national football teams, we assemble them a few weeks before a tournament. They do not qualify because they have to go against United States, Canada, Mexico, Jamaica, Honduras, Guatemala, Panama. And then you disband them when these other nations keep these teams right through until they become the senior team, inclusive of a national under 23 team. And that is the point. The technology, the nutrition, the diets, the equipment, the medication, all of these things play a part to move that extra 0.5 seconds that can turn you from being a finalist to being a medalist. I remember my son, when he got a football scholarship in the United Kingdom, they have the technology now to ascertain if your left calf muscle could be 1,000th of an ounce smaller than your right calf muscle that assisted him in his speed. We don't even have that here. We have a national football team that don't even have the equipment on the vest that you see footballers wear that can check your speed, your heart rate, how many kilometers you ran. That is what is required. None of that has been provided for our national teams. The national football team in 2022 World Cup qualifiers, nothing was provided for them. No field, no medication, no transport. And the same thing happened to our national hockey team. For 3 years, we do not have hockey, even though I built an AstroTurf in the St. James Barracks that is there's a white elephant. So unless we put those facilities from a youth development level, provided the opportunity, the resources, and have that proper type of training, technology, equipment, nutritionists, we are going to continue to fail. And that is where it is unfortunate, where I think only about 3 or 4 of us have been in cabinet that have actually represented our country at sport. And because when you have a whole cabinet not involved in understanding sport, that is why we are failing.
Well, in terms of failure, what we also recognize, and I'm glad you would have mentioned that as we transition out of the sport discussion, what I'm learning now via this extortion scenario, and that's a very important topic because up to yesterday, we had that discussion and your name was actually mentioned by one of the chairmen of one of the business chambers. We have known of contractors and big business having to go through that, but now it seems the doubles man, the sole trader, the pie man, the market vendor, they now too have to pay, as we say, cow tax to criminal gangs. And it's causing a real dent and causing people to not want to get into business, to shut down the business. That in itself is extreme failure. What's a working plan forward? I know FULs is a major discussion that's on pause, but if you were given that responsibility again, would you have distributed such to this small man, the small businessman, the sole trader?
Well, not to distribute to the small man, but to distribute to the person who may have the qualification and the capability that we know that that person has the sound body and mind to have a firearm that can be utilized for the right reason, which is why in that 3 years as Commissioner of Police, I issued just about 3,500 to 4,000 odd to civilians. Those 25,000 who had applied for, listen to your interview yesterday, it's over 25,000 people who applied over the last 10 years before I became commissioner. And there was even common courtesy by commissioners before me and after me to even respond. And that's why there have been many lawsuits and the state is now paying for it. So after 25,000 applicants, I would have issued just about 3 to 4,000. That's just a little over 1,000 a year. So still at that rate I was going, it would have taken 25 years to deal with those persons who had applied. Now it has gone to 100 per annum. So it will take 250 years before those who applied can even be given an acknowledgement that they applied. It is unacceptable. Once you put the proper systems to make sure that the person is qualified, which is what we did, never before. So even though less firearms were issued before me, there were more incidents of negligent discharges, person losing their firearms and using it for a criminal offense. In the 3 years when I issued those firearms, not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used for a crime, and in fact, many lives were saved. It is unfortunate that the government has continued to double down in making sure that law-abiding citizens cannot get firearms, yet they will be harassing me and bombarding me when I was commissioner to get firearms for their friends in high places. And what about the small businessman, the farmer, the hunter, the person who is involved in sport? Even that and all, as it pertains, you would have listened to Roger Daniel being quoted. He represented us at hockey and in shooting in 3 Olympics. And that shooting has now become a totally dead sport. You have to be 25 before you could actually be involved in that sport, where persons in other countries at 15 and 16, they're involved in that sport. We have killed shooting as it pertains to Olympics, thanks to this government, or international sport. But as it pertains to firearms, the firearms have proven to be very effective. But that is a very small avenue to deal with the problem of extortion. The main issue has to do with the lack of trust that the public will have in the police service. And this is not a problem with the police officers. These were the same police officers 3 years ago where public trust and confidence was 59%. Now it has gone down to less than 8%. You would have seen a letter that now was sent from the Police Service Commission that stated even officers within the police service, I think it's less than 12%, they have trust and confidence in the leadership of the police service. So even outside and inside, there's no trust and confidence in the hierarchy of the police service specifically selected by the government and the Police Service Commission. If there's no trust and confidence in the police service, it means the citizens would not want to report the crime. And by not reporting the crime, it has caused extortion now to run rampant. Remember, 2018 to 2021, there was no such thing as extortion. There was no such thing as home invasion. Kidnappings had come to an end because we had specific systems, operational plans, strategies, covert operations. We had dark web we were monitoring. Those are the things that peg back. So it can't very well change. It is not going to change now because of the lack of trust that the public will have in giving information to the police.
Most times, I guess, with the extortion part of it especially, it starts with a phone call. And I would imagine if you're suggesting here that people don't trust the public security sector, the TTPS as it were, they will now probably have to engage private security, but not everyone will be able to afford such. So what does one really do when that call comes to your business place?
And that you're correct. And that is why extortion has now prospered, because the businessman, whether it is the doubles vendor to the person with a massive company, they are now forced to have to do 3 things. Either report it to the police, which they are afraid to because there's the perception that certain police officers may be involved and they can actually target them more. They can actually try to challenge the persons, and they cannot do that because most of them do not have firearms, or they can migrate or shut down their business. So those are the 3 options that they are now. And my take is that this can change. The concept, there were reports of extortion under my watch as Commissioner of Police, and it was not difficult to deal with because we had the police app that had 450,000 hits, the largest app in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. We had the online reporting, we had the 482 Gary. So I would be getting messages from the small businessman, from anyone, all hours in the night, letting me know this is happening. And with that now, because I had an elite unit known as the Special Operation Response Team, a few moments later, and Gary's boys and all of that, turning up in a few minutes. That was not a movie. All of these other people that you see, Jason Bourne and Tom Cruise coming down, and a parachute, they are actors. We were the real thing. We actually pegged back the criminals, and there was fear. There's no longer that fear. And by doing that, what we had would have been similar to what I did when I piggybacked looking at what NYPD did. They have 35,000 police officers, but about 3,000, the other 32,000 did not know. They drive taxis, they sell hot dogs, and they now are the covert operatives working deep in the underworld, giving us the information. All of that has stopped. And then when we had these reports of extortion, like for example, there was one where persons were billing bleachers in South Key for Carnival, and they were coming there and telling the workers, if you don't pay us or give us the contract, we are going to take you out. And then what we did simply was to put undercover police officers, have them dressed as these workers, and we took their wicket. So we will either take them down or take them out. And that is how we dealt with extortion. And the criminals realized that, and they backed off because they did not know when they turned up at the store if this person who's now the cashier is now a covert operative. The things I'm speaking about is a totally different language to Euler, to McDonald, to Fitzy, and to Keith Scotland. They do not understand tactics, strategy, operational systems of law enforcement.
Well, we saw strategy recently where at least the junior minister hit the ground running in Tobago, working the ground with the commissioner. We saw the photo up, we saw cameras there, and I think literally a couple of days ago. So I guess, the approach for Tobago now is to let our brothers and sisters there know that boots on the ground and they should be covered. What's your take on that particular development out of Tobago?
Well, I think it's a good keep fit class for himself and Euler. They may need it. But that is cosmetic. It is simply not going to solve the problem. Doing photo ops and walking, it reminds you of the ridiculous thing that happens every carnival Tuesday morning when all of us have to line up, the minister, the commissioner, the chief of defense staff, and walk around Port of Spain to get a photo op to show the country, look, we are walking around.
But you were part of that? You used to be part of the photo op?
Yeah, I was forced to because I was given an instruction. So I had no choice, and I'm looking at saying, I am supposed to be the National Operations Center monitoring everything to lock down Trinidad and Tobago for Carnival. I have to spend 3 hours doing a photo op because it's mandatory, because that is what is supposed to happen. That doesn't solve crime. That doesn't make people safe for Carnival. And it's the same thing now. The good thing with Keith Scotland is at least he is interacting with the public. He's actually meeting people to hear their concerns. What he has done in interacting with the public in his 3 weeks odd as a Minister in National Security is more than Fitzy would have done in 3 years, because he was the most inaccessible minister in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. So at least Keith is meeting with the people, but all that is happening, he's going to meet complaints, concerns, and frustration, and not solutions, because the solution is there. We provided that in Tobago. We had that comprehensive lockdown. It is not going to be Farley trying to tell sailors jump in a pirogue and drive around. It is not going to be helped when it is I acquired 6 damming vessels with interceptors, inclusive of one named SS Speyside that was there deliberately to patrol the exclusive economic zone and from 2 miles to the EEZ for Tobago, to lock down Tobago's waters and to provide the police marine branch, which I also established, that was shut down for decades. That as well as the National Operations Center, the Special Operation Response Team, monitoring the hundreds of cameras in Tobago, having a 999 system specific for Tobago. People do not know when you call 999 in Tobago, it goes to St. James Barracks and then it's fed to a police station in Tobago. By that time, the criminals have left. That is how you lock down the country. So unfortunately, the walking around is not going to put a dent. What it is going to do, it's going to be a good cosmetic ministerial ploy to make the country believe that something is happening. I really do hope that Keith Scotland can lift and assist in reducing crime, but unfortunately, if it is you keep putting square pegs in round holes, it is not going to solve the problem.
So in terms of, at least, as you rightfully said, Mr. Scotland clearly on the ground taking concerns. I'm sure they will go back to the drawing board and try to come up with strategy, because if it's one thing I know, ACP Hazel, who is from Tobago, who is charged with the responsibility to keep Tobago safe, I know this can't sit well with him, what's happening in terms of the murder toll, the numbers, the kind of light that is being shone now on Tobago. So let's see how things pan out, because I guess there is still a couple months before the end of 2024, and I trust that they should be able to bring it around.
Well, again, and definitely, sometimes politicians only do see the negative. The positive of what Keith Scotland has done, where it says he has now been meeting with the business sector. They have now agreed through the business sector to repair 40-odd police vehicles. That is commendable to Keith Scotland. Fitzy did not do that. In fact, what they did was do exactly what I did. One of the biggest concerns that came about when I was Commissioner of Police. People said they were seeing too many sirens, too many vehicles, too many patrols. And that is because we had something through Nicole Griffith, somebody that I know well. And she is the person who formed the I Support Our Service, getting the private sector, to interact with the police. And by doing that, we were able to repair buildings, paint police buildings, get the air conditioners working, get generators working, stationery, computers, repairing vehicles. And because of that, that happens all over the world, and it was a comprehensive thing that was done that helped giving the equipment, the tools, the technology to assist the police service to then defend the same persons who are there providing the support for them. So by these 45 vehicles being repaired, it can very well assist. However, having said that, you need to have systems to measure their performance and make them accountable. If not, you will just have vehicles flying willy-nilly, breaking down again. And that's why we had GPS tracking on every police vehicle, monitoring their speed, seeing if it is they were actually using a blue light to get to a distress call, making sure they are locked down in specific areas to have their area of responsibility. So when we had that emergency response patrol, 100 vehicles scattered around Trinidad and Tobago, it provided a 5-minute response. That is what put an end to extortion. That is what put an end to home invasion. That is what put an end to dealing with the problems that exist with kidnapping. When it is we put an end to kidnapping by kicking down doors, arresting the kidnappers and rescuing the victims. That is how you deal with it. So as much as Keith Scotland is dealing it from an administrative level, operational, tactical, strategic, we have commissioners and hierarchy of police officers that do not have the capability. And this is no fault of the police officers. These were the same police officers 3 years ago that public trust and confidence was 59%. Now it is less than 8%, not because of the officers, but because of the hierarchy specifically selected by this administration.
Mr. Griffith, I want to thank you as always for the time, and I guess we will get a chance to touch base somewhere in the near future. All the best.
Take care.